Yeah.
All right, started. All right, I'll call this a meeting to order of our Latimer House, Brown House Ad-Hoc. Mr. McClure, would you mind saying our invitation?
Be fine. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to all meet here. We come to you as one of your weakest. Please give us guidance and strength. Watch over and protect us. Let us make good decisions and lead, guide, and direct us. We'll be mindful to give you the praise both now and forever. Amen.
Amen. All right, do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Klein, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McClure. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion for approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Klein, seconded by Commissioner Latimer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recognition of the public, there is none tonight. Old business, we have none. New business, motion to suspend the rules for open table discussion with Mr. Coker.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Coker, we do not have, apologize in advance, we do not, the hookup, miscommunication is not, so we can show David's laptop. We did that last time, so my apologies. So if we show photos, David's, I'm probably going to just take his computer like this, and you guys can just do the best you can. So, Mr. Coker, Mr. Klein, I'll hand it over to you guys.
Go ahead, Chris. Give you the floor.
Well, I haven't been out to the house in a week and a half. I wrapped up I think y'all talked about this last week. I wrapped up our investigation, inspection-wise rather, and I don't know what all, was talked about last week, but I think David and I are in very good confidence, feel very confident with what we've come up with, number-wise. We really haven't figured out a game plan of which section we're going to tackle first. I'd love to tackle the log section first, get all the brick off, and see what we got. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. It's still exciting, and it will always be exciting for me. But it's we gotta talk through some numbers and some different things that we need to consider on this restoration. How really true you want to be to a restoration. I don't mean using square nails and all that, but there's some items in here we need to talk about that could affect the budget per se. So is there anything we need to add to that, David?
Well, first off, the bird that we saw in the picture last week
I was going to let you mention that.
was a mother buzzard and baby buzzards under the house.
Oh,
And when Chris was under the house, he saw that much of this heel. And so that's probably a Latimer child, because it looks like a pretty old shoe to me. Don't know for sure. I'm sure that some shoemaker can tell us what the date is on this shoe. But
I would love to find out, because it has, the shoestring eyes to it. I don't know when they started doing that. That'd be a shoemaker, a true shoemaker would be able to say, oh yeah, this is whatever.
it does not say Florsheim on it. Well, Chris and I spent about 3 hours coming up with this budget yesterday. And for those of you who don't have one in hand, we came up with a total minus architecture, because Jeremy reminded me that because it's over $25,000, $50,000?
Yeah, over 50,000.
Over $50,000, we're gonna have to have an architect, and I don't know what that architect is going to do. This is a 200-plus-year-old house, so he's not gonna be designing anything. He's probably gonna stamp his name to some documents, and that'll be the end of it.
And he gets his check.
And he gets his check. So we're just shy of $410,000 for the work, and the big item in this is the log repair. We put $100,000 in there And there's gonna have to be some things. I told Chris that we own a building on the square that's over 100 years old, and we have the wood tested. And I think we should take a little piece of wood off of this and send it off to the lab that, on the East Coast that analyzed that and told us it was yellow, or southern yellow pine, and see if this is tulip poplar or what these logs are made of. I'm guessing tulip poplar, but I don't know for sure. And so, because they range, they're 8 inches wide for the most part, but they range from 16 inches to 24 inches is what I gather. You're not gonna find them at the local Lowe's. And probably have some real trouble just going to some of these companies that make log cabins. My next door neighbor is a timber cutter named Don Bose, and he just got back from Florida. I'm gonna ask him if, I every day his log truck comes with, logs this big, so if we wanna stay true to the wood, and that would be ideal, I'm gonna see what he can come up with. He usually cuts his logs in 8-foot sections, but I bet you we could talk him out of that. And then of course, it's having a mill that can cut logs that big into slabs of 8 inches. So, I have a qualification on the log repair, and I'll just read it. It's note number 1. It says, this should be a fairly conservative dollar amount at $100,000. Having said that, because of modifications made to the house, mostly windows and heating and air conditioning cuts, we don't know the full extent of log replacement that would be required. We need to find out what kind of trees the wood comes from, which I was just explaining. The logs are roughly 8-inch wide and vary in height from 16 to 24 inches. These are much taller than most logs one can buy today. Chinking additionally is an unknown, as very little is visible, and for the reasons stated above. So Chris opened up, when you walk into the log cabin, there's a bedroom to the right, and Chris opened up the whole
So that's
corner.
under the stairs?
Yeah.
And I did not realize that, because we got no idea that part, so that was.
And, let's see, let me find that. Okay, so this is looking out the front of the house, and this is a window that probably was where the old window was located.
Can you see that, Jim?
They just opened it up. So Chris took off a bunch of this wall and a bunch of this, and that's when he determined that the logs are in really good shape. But you can see that the chinking, it's kind of hard to see. Mike and I were looking at it today, and we could see where a lot of the chinking was falling out. So we have a dollar amount of, and I hear again, I think it's conservative, but it might not be $40,000 depending on what we encounter. But if I go on the other side of this,
All the chinking that is currently there now is concrete. I don't know what's behind it. Traditionally, back in the pioneer days, you'd mix mud, sand, clay, straw, and compact it. Obviously, that's all gone. So I don't know, because David said the logs are 8 inches thick. I don't know what they used. We don't know what they used for a filler. But we do know that everything is concrete. And that's somewhat typical. I've run into that before. So, the chinking, today's chinking is what's typically used. It expands and contracts with the seasons. It doesn't crack, and it looks wonderful. It's kind of a sandy type finish, and it looks really wonderful. It would really brighten up this house. I don't know of another chinking product out there. You can go to log home websites all day long, and it's the same product. Permachink is what it's called. So
And that's what you've used on the other house?
Yes, yes.
Totally, yeah. So, and so you've removed concrete like this and
Yes.
then used that new chinking that's
Mhm.
invested.
Matter of fact, at Bledsoe Historic Park at the Gibson cabin, Jane and them had me re-chink the entire inside, and it was all concrete, had some wood in it, had rocks all in it, had to take all that out, put some 4x4, styrofoam board in there to help insulate, and then you chink over it.
Was
And
that
it-
probably
and-
done in the sixties? The concrete?
Probably so. I would say, me personally, I don't mean to get off subject, whenever they did the brick, the house went under extensive renovation. Because getting up in the original attic, you can see new boards for the decking for the roof. You have the tin. So, and then different floors throughout the house, subfloors and floor joists. I think the house went under a big time renovation back in the 60s.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that makes sense. That's
It
when
does, it
Mr.
really
Brown
does.
kind of took over. So one of the things, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the upstairs bedroom
It's a window.
looking forward. This is a newer window that I assume Mr. Brown put in, but the old window is right there. That poses some log problems because we're gonna get rid of one of these, and I think we're partial to go to the old locations of the windows.
But if you look at, Jim had printed some of these out, these old cabins, you can see this house is very similar to what it looks like this old Latimer house. You see how the windows are right here, it's just two, and they're closer to the edge, which mirrors exactly what they found. So this period house from the 1780s is the same kind of, so that's, to answer your question.
Yeah, it looks like the
That would
corner
be the goal.
connections,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw these,
I
Chris,
haven't.
but the corner connections, I think, are very similar to ours
We
here.
talking about like the dovetail?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very indigenous of hand, square logs.
So if we get rid of this window, we've got a 2-foot section of log here. This whole log has been hacked to make room for this window. So we're gonna have to make a decision on what to do about those logs, and that's why we threw $100,000 in there, because we can't just splice them here where the windows are, it won't look right. We'll never find the exact size. And so we probably are going to need to replace, 1, 2, 3, 4 logs just for that window. And there's no way around it, because whether we keep this and unless we wanted to just show where the old window was, and that's an option.
Yeah.
That's an option. We can just block it out on the outside somehow, which is gonna look really funky because we're gonna go back to logs and get rid of the brick, I think. And it's just one of those things we're gonna have to address. So,
That's the big booger on this particular house is that in the 60s, whenever they potentially did all this, they, like David said, they just went in with a chainsaw and hacked all these logs. So when you're opening them up, they're not nice and straight. They're falling down. There's some sitting on top of each other. It's crazy. And you shake your head thinking, why? What were you thinking?
Oh my goodness.
Nothing. And the same way with that opening, the 12-foot opening, where you got a sag. You're thinking, why? Common sense tells you to put some sort of support in there, but these are some of the boogers that we have to tackle.
and then last week I talked about, I thought maybe that the utility room, the area we called Area D, was probably a covered garden area or something. The reason we think that is when we went in the attic, there's the original hand-hewn rafters, and then there are rafter extensions that take the wall out another 10 feet. Now those are newer. I looked at those again today, and they're sawn, but they're rough sawn, so they came after the hand-hewn did, but they're fairly old. And if you're in what we call the B area or the dining room, this is looking to the south towards Wolfpack Way. And I talked about this a little bit. This is a double door opening that might have been French doors or something that opened out to that side D area. And so, you know, that's an item that we're gonna have to discuss. Do we wanna put double doors there? Do we wanna close it up? I don't know, there's gonna be a lot of decisions to make with this house. One of the big ones that Chris and I spent a lot of time talking about that sounded like it's another decision we're gonna have to make, but we've got interior construction, we've got floor refinish. Now, we've got $6,000 in there, which is about $4 a foot, because,
Oak pointing from about 100 years ago?
well, it's that 2 1/8 inch tongue and groove 3/4 inch strip oak. Now, we could go in and refinish that, and it's not in bad shape at all now. However, last week when we talked about it, there seemed to be the consensus in the room that we want to see the old irregular width planks. So I say in note 2 here, an alternative to refinishing that wood would be to remove all of the oak flooring. In area A, if the subfloor planking, which is newer, doesn't look period enough, we could overlay it with something that does look period, you know, random width plank. We could do this in the second floor area as well, because what's under the carpet is plywood. And below the plywood, I think, is the beadboard it's 8-inch beadboard that Chris says would not have been original to the house. So if we wanted to, we could peel all of that up and just, you know, have some 5/4 or 6/4 stuff run at one of the local mills, and we could put that in as floor, and you'd see the gaps, you know, going up and everything. So those are a couple of options. In the B and C area, that's all original, and that's, like I say, an inch. I think, Chris, you thought it was
Inch and a quarter.
Inch and a quarter thick.
Yeah, I cut a small section out right in that doorway. I didn't know if we saw that.
Yeah.
To get through all that down to the original.
So we could, if we pull up the oak, we could leave those planks, and all we have to deal with is the gaps to the dirt and the buzzards below.
So, I guess it comes down to cost. Is it more expensive to do that, or more expensive to refinish?
Well,
It comes down to cost and how original do you want to be. When David and I were talking about this yesterday, you know, it's like the logs. You want to take out a double window and just put a piece in there. For me, I have to think, what is this? What are we trying to present back to the public? What are we trying to present back to the public within the, you know, our budget per se? Do you want people to walk in and look at the floor and say this is not original, or this doesn't look original, because it definitely doesn't? Do you want, or do you want to just, you know, there's several different avenues we could go with this entire project. It just depends on how serious we want to be about the restoration.
yeah.
And there's you know, tearing up the floor just in the downstairs area, possibly taking all that narrow oak 2 1/4 or whatever, and putting wide planks flooring down, I think would be wonderful, because when you walk in, you know, you see that. People aren't going to know per se it's not original, but it looks original. I think that's very important. So there's different things, different ways we could go, and we were talking about all this yesterday. So to put the budget together, you know, it's we really need to, in my opinion, as someone who's doing this, I need to know which direction y'all want to go. I know which direction I would want to do it, but you know, we don't have $1 million to do it. We have $500,000, and we can do it within $500,000. It may be tight, but we also have to take in consideration, you know, unforeseen things. We have to take that in consideration. But
Would that be I guess, to answer your question, I mean, I personally am all about as far as hard as we can go towards originality, including
Yeah.
the windows. I mean, if it's like, it comes down to your point, like, when it comes to stages of project, I've watched enough home design shows to know that, well, this happened, so what do you want to cut? And they're like, well, we can do this, so it's like, I think we've all seen enough of that. So I don't think anybody has necessarily misgivings on that, but I guess it's knowing like where's your hard non-negotiables versus where's your flex
Yeah.
points. So floors and windows to me would be a flex point versus a hard non-negotiable. They'd be like, great, can we do it? But like, if you can't, it's not the end of the world, because like, Jim had an idea, like last week of like, you do a cut through and show what the original floor, almost like a box, like,
Yeah.
and there are
Yeah,
places
yeah.
to do that. And so, it's not ideal, but it's, knowing that, hey, this floor is 100 years old, this floor is 200 and something years old. So it's like, but their period, it just shows the evolution of the house. I mean,
Yeah.
you could definitely craft a narrative as far as a storytelling aspect any way you want to for like
Yeah.
placards and for the public. But I think that's just my personal opinion. It's far and hard as we can go, but knowing, I guess the biggest, what are the give points that we have? And right now, it's like floors and windows would be the give points.
Let me throw one caveat, because I've recently gone through this in our building on the square, which we think is anywhere between 1880 and 1910. We pulled out the old oak flooring on the upstairs. It had no subfloor underneath it. And we ran across nails that were this long. They used any spike they could find to put those floors in. And this floor could be older than that floor that we took up. So what we don't know is what we're gonna do to the original 1 1/4 inch floor underneath it. Maybe nothing, maybe we'll just get really lucky, but you have to do it carefully, and so. And then what will that wood, I mean, do we have old knots that have fallen out that we have to, back block and then fill? We just, there's so many unknowns. But the problem is we gotta make these decisions before we get started, or we can do them as we go. And, based on the assessment of the guy who's done this many times. I was telling Jeremy, Chris was just gave Bridal House a price on rechinking it to Jane Wright, because that kind of stuff needs to happen periodically. So, we talked about putting a sealer on the exterior, and that, I forget what he said.
It's gotta be replaced. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, the seal, we put in $8,000 for that, but that's not a permanent sealer, so that's gonna have to happen over and over again, or we lose the logs. So, there are things to upkeep this now. And Mike when I was over there with Mike today, Mike mowed the lawn in the yard. And we were talking about the brick, we were looking at the corner that Chris exposed, and Mike was saying, well, I don't have a problem with the brick, we can leave exposed areas and plexiglass over them or something. It doesn't give the full effect, but that is an option that we have open to us, because the demolition of the brick is.
I'd be opposed to that. I saw Tim wince at that too, but it's an option, but.
But we got.
I told him that when we were talking about it.
Yeah, we got $10,000 in to remove the brick, so.
I was really surprised. I
I'd
honestly
say that's
figured,
non-negotiable in my.
I really figured the demolition of the brick was probably gonna be 2 to 3 times what this shows. So, I mean, for that amount of money to take it back to the original log, I could go either way with it. It wouldn't bother me either way.
It appears to me, talking about the brick, that for whatever reason, it's not attached to the house. And I specifically took out.
So you're saying we could go out there with the sledgehammers and pull that crap down?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, the $10,000 in my mind, and I could be totally wrong, but I specifically took out good sized sections, thinking as a mason I'm gonna see some ties in here somewhere. I'm going to see some, I've gotta see some ties within the first 4 or 5 courses that I've taken out. If not that, then at least length, so I'm thinking masonry wise, you know, and I didn't see all that, I'm thinking, what in the world? So yeah, the brick could potentially come down fairly easy.
Well, that when I saw that, I went, my goodness, that's a lot cheaper than what I figured. I figured it'd be 3 times that, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Well, now you know why.
Yeah, if it wasn't tacked in, or strapped in, I guess is what
Yeah,
those little
strapped.
metal things.
And what's under that brick is, this is a piece of 1x6 tongue and groove. Now, that's not, this was on the side. What's on the front is not tongue and groove, it's just random width boards. And then over all of that was this,
Siding.
Says
Do we
best.
get that out of
It's
here?
best-
Wow, what's that even mean?
Take a deep breath.
so that was a siding that,
It'd be floating in water right now. Just being-
I have no idea when this stuff would have been manufactured. Did you have a date on this, Chris?
It's like,
It's 30s, 40s, and 50s type material.
Is that right?
It is, oh yeah.
Yeah, you used to see it in houses all the time
Yeah.
back in the 60s, and they were already
Yeah.
built, so,
They used to put the gables a lot.
yeah. You did little bitty tiny nails, had little bitty holes
Yep,
in them.
exactly
You just,
right, yeah.
and if you missed, cracked it,
Shatters
just
it, yeah.
throw it away, get a nut.
The hardy plank of yesterday.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, you're right. The original Hardy Plank.
And then the last variable that is meaningful is in the original areas of section B and section C, you can tell by the cement stains on the studs that was wood lath and plaster, which we think Chris stopped around the 1920s.
It did, 1920s, 30s, when you started having drywall
Right.
being invented.
So that lath and plaster was probably put on whenever that extension, which we think is probably 1830s and 1840s.
the D extension or
The B and C.
okay.
So the question again that Chris posed is how authentic do we want to go? Because we didn't throw a drywall price in there, but I can tell you it's substantially cheaper.
So this is for lath and plaster?
No, this is, well, yeah, this is for lath and plaster. Yeah, the one I did in red, wall surface, wood lath and plaster would be about $20,000 probably.
Would you even do that though? Because people can't see that it's been done. If it's done right, it's gonna be smooth and look like drywall.
Well,
Unless you do it rough and make it look like lath and plaster.
well, you know, the thing about lath and plaster depended on the artisan who did it, because I've seen lath and plaster that did this.
Well, that's my point.
And then I've seen it that was perfect. You know, the
So is that
lath
something
and
you can
plaster
achieve?
homes
Yes.
in Newport,
Yes.
Rhode Island are exquisite.
You do one and cover it in one wall and cover it in acrylic and show what it would look like half done, but do the rest in drywall. But I just say do it all in drywall because nobody's gonna look at the interior construction
Well, and-
of a finished wall.
If it's not a wall, I'm gonna think this is like a modern invention, I would never know, I mean,
Yeah.
as a public, I mean.
Well, what we could do is the wall, this wall right here is actually an interior wall because we decided, I think last week, to keep all this as a utility area. We've got a bathroom back here, and this is the laundry room. We could put chairs or whatever. And so we could actually leave the wall surface open so they could see what the framing looked like. Because it's very different than anything you see today. I've got pictures of it.
Yeah, but then you kind of mess with the functionality of the house for whatever it's gonna be used for.
Well, and what is it gonna be used for? We think it's going to be used similar to the bridal house. And probably, because it's on school grounds, it'll be used for the schools to look at, which would
Kids to
be,
do tours.
yeah.
But as far as that goes, you could put a small sample of what lath and plaster looks like on
Yes, you could.
easel.
Yes, you
If you
could.
wanna show that off and do the rest of the house in drywall and be done with it.
But this is typical of the framing of that whole B and C area. That's like a 3x4 at 2 feet on center, and then it's got this very strong cross brace. It looks like German.
Orient me, where's the bathroom?
Well, this is the dining room. All the walls in B and C are framed the same way.
Can you explain plaster over wood lathe? What do you mean by wood?
Wood
lathe?
lath.
Slats.
Yeah,
Slats of wood. And
they're like
smeared
3/8
plaster
inches
over it.
thick and
Looks like
about,
somebody put a bunch of yardsticks
an
on
inch
the
and a
wall.
half.
Yeah, that's
smeared
exactly
mud
what it
all
looks
over
like.
it.
Yeah.
So that's what.
That's lather
Yeah.
and plaster.
Yeah, but what you do it neatly, like I said, you won't see it at all.
No,
But
if
is,
it
what is the,
finishes right.
what is the material? Does it feel like drywall? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
plaster. It's what's inside a drywall.
so it's just gonna look like, I mean,
Basically.
what,
So
what,
like a rough
Gypsum
stucco
block,
concrete.
the way it's
like
done
mud.
is
Mud.
they would nail this wood lath, and it's about the size of a grating stake. You know, we saw grating stakes out there. They're about this wide and about this thick.
so that's just.
So they run them horizontally, and then a mason comes in and he puts a scratch coat on. So he's pushing it through the gaps, because there's like 1/4-inch gaps between this lath,
Cling.
so it'll bind it. Then it comes back.
Like brick makes.
Yeah. Then it comes back with what they call a brown coat, which is screeded and pretty flat. And then the final coat is a plaster coat, plaster of Paris, more or less. And that's what goes on really nice, or they texture it something.
So when do you think the age of that would have been done for those rooms? 1800s,
Yes, sir.
1830s, 40s? Okay, that's what they did back then?
Yeah.
I didn't.
And they did it all the way up to, I had rebuilt a house that was built in 1910 that was all wood lath and plaster. They transitioned from probably 1920s to the 1940s is when they phased that out, because gypsum board was used
Mining.
as a
Less
backing,
labor.
less labor,
Mining, that probably became more of a manufacturing process, got better
and cheaper.
yeah.
And
So yeah, this is a prime example of the area of how extent do you wanna go?
It could be one of those give areas, like, if the goal is to go, let's do it if we can, but if you had to start, like, if we ran into a major problem, it's like, gosh, we need $50,000 because we just found this. Okay, what can we cut some back to a lack of, this to me seems like it'd be
You're gonna have
easy.
trouble finding.
I would, me personally would almost say, David, let's do the dining room, which is B, back in lath and plaster.
Yeah, it's
And then
small.
And then, because it's small, and then the back section, because would be more likely a kitchen or something, we could go back we could do drywall over there.
Yeah, I mean, we could do, the thing is with a building like this, nobody's gonna ever live in it again. So leaving sections of wall open so that you can see what the framing looked like in the 1830s and 1840s compared to log cabin construction. If we want it to be a learning event, then we should, if we want to show sections of the original floor, or we want to make it look like total, it depends on what we want to do with the building, and of course, that's county decision, but if we have this 501c3 that's going to be the custodian of it, and especially since we got family members, that's another, we need
In
to
the
make
same
this-
manner that
I
the
think-
Friends of the Bridal House
Right.
are custodians of the Bridal House, which is county-owned property. It's not,
Right,
it's-
right.
and this would be the same thing,
It
just to
would
clarify
be-
for the record here.
Yeah, that would be
Everybody-
the same thing.
I think you do it as cost efficient as possible and leave a small section to show if you're gonna do any of it. Because if you do a whole room in it, just to do a whole room in it, you're still probably not gonna leave the whole backside of the wall showing it. You're probably still gonna leave just a small section of it.
Well, I've done lath and plaster. And so say for instance, on this wall right here, which is the back of the dining room, we wanted to lath that whole section to the doorway in wood, and then we wanted to come in and do the scratch coat, and then come in a little more and do the brown coat, and then come in a little more and do the plaster coat. Now somebody can see how it was done 100 years ago.
But even that can be done in a very small section.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Not a whole room.
I'm talking about a wall section that's probably 8 feet.
So the right of that is the
Yeah.
actual kitchen, right?
See, here's the door into the kitchen. So if we wanted to do that section like that as an example of what wood lath and plaster looked like and And wood lath and plaster.
But even that wouldn't be all the way to the ceiling. It'd be a section.
We can do it
up
any
to
way we want.
Eye level maybe or something.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're talking about the majority of it being done in sheetrock.
right.
So that's where we get our budget from, and then you could look at back figuring how much to do this artistic section in wood, lath, and plaster.
Yeah, and Chris and I don't know what the ceiling looks like. It may be lath and plaster that's covered over with drywall. Because a lot of people wouldn't screw with tearing all that down and being underneath
Just
it.
cover it up.
They would just cover it
The
up.
ceiling's in good shape though, right?
Huh?
Ceiling's in good shape.
Ceiling's
right?
in good shape, but we don't even know what it is. When you go up above this area in the attic, I was trying to pull away that blown-in insulation, and when you hit it, it sounds like wood. So the ceiling may be wood planked. I don't know. We haven't gotten that
But
far
we
yet.
probably won't mess with it regardless if it's in good shape,
I
right?
I don't know.
Unless that's the part that needs to be lifted or whatever.
I don't know what, you know, old houses in the 1830s and 1840s, I don't know what their ceilings looked like.
Is that something we should vote on, which way, direction we wanna go with, or we just talking still right now?
I'm not
No
listening
decisions
to
yet.
I'm not listening to the conversation.
On the wood lab versus drywall, just back to our original.
I don't think that's a decision we need to make. I think it's, because right now it's for doing it, it's in the quote, we're $140,000 under with the money we have.
Yeah, but it's he said it'd be considerably less with drywall versus this, and we got this
Sure.
one now.
Sure, but I
So it's a
mean,
direction.
this is the, right now, the total quote we know of so far, so why take it out if we don't have to? Knowing that we can give. I mean, that's what we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah,
It might
that's
not
our
be able to-
buffer, that's our,
Well, we got windows, it could be a buffer where we don't go back to the original window configuration. We got floors, it could be a buffer where instead of replacing the floors in living room A to match B and C or the upstairs, we just refinish those and do a cut through. I mean, these are I'll say flex points, but right now,
flex points, that's what I'm trying to say,
so,
yeah.
but the floor refinish, this is for strip, this is for refinishing it,
Refinishing it.
not putting their board, so we would need to increase that price probably for the flooring on that floor, instead of floor refinish, it'd be, floor refinish would be floor replacement.
Be
So-
replacing, remove and replace.
Correct, so that'd be an additional
Yeah.
cost we're not accounting for
Right.
yet, so.
Right.
Right.
That's the 1 1/4 back to
Back to the, yes,
To
2/8 plank.
yes, to match the original from B and C where original flooring is there.
Did you find out that is underneath, or we'd have to?
yeah, it is, because what
So
we.
all the floors are there.
Yeah, but in B and C, it's all, the original flooring is underneath that oak strip, which then is covered with a.
You said A, it's not, because there's a concrete
Yeah,
foundation, it's
yeah.
just that same floor from the early 1900s or whatever.
Yeah, see, they
So
put
that's-
in a concrete brick here, I think to accommodate
The stoves,
the stove,
potbelly stove.
potbelly stove that was there. And over here, it's a brick pattern linoleum.
Yeah.
And so, but under the linoleum is the wood.
So all the floors have original floors underneath of them?
No,
or-
not the A section.
No, A doesn't.
A is because they replaced that whole floor structure somewhere later. that-
Okay, so
that-
that's the one you're
Yeah,
talking
and I
about
showed Mike.
possibly changing back to natural?
Right,
right.
So an update, I guess we could, for this spreadsheet we could get from you guys, is like, here's option, floor refinish, but, maybe another note down here, the floor demo and replace, what's the cost? I mean, you can just add it or whatever, but I mean, or
Yeah.
swap it out. Put the-
Yeah, yeah.
Floor refinish, we can move that down, and floor replace, move it right here under interior construction, demo let's,
Does that mean it?
Yeah, being either.
yeah, but I'm saying let's move this out and moving it, I'm just saying if you can update you guys can,
And
and
then
that
you
way we
have
can.
two totals right here. One would be with this and one would be with that.
Well, I'm not getting that complicated, I'm just saying pull floor refinish out and put it as a note. Here's another option, put an asterisk or something and just only have the replace, just let's not complicate it.
And put the
Yeah.
total of that.
Correct, because right now we're in good shape, we're $140,000 under budget, so far. That doesn't, about that question, and here's where, according to county policy and I didn't print this out for you guys, but I'll make sure you guys have this. basically, we're in the process of initial concepts, which is giving the detailed explanation need, type of structure. One thing I guess we need to figure out, like square footage, you guys roughly know what the square footage?
1,500.
This is about 1,500 square
It's
feet.
30 by 50.
All right, so it's 1,500 square feet, roughly.
And that doesn't include upstairs, which is another 600.
Oh, so it's about 2,100
Yeah,
square
it's
feet.
about 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah. So the footprint is 15 and then there's 600 upstairs.
All right. So after that, and this is where we need to talk to Mr. Long. My understanding right now is according to TCA, Tennessee Code Annotated, is that we've got to get an architect involved. Again, of course, you made the comment, David, you don't understand why an architect, what there would be to do. I'm just curious to hear you guys, let's discuss that a little bit, like why would we have an architect?
Well,
Outside of state law requiring us to, but like,
Yeah.
do you even need an architect on a project like this?
I don't know what he'd do.
So it's just a waste of
It
money.
violates
Well, it is
every
because-
code of.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It violates every code on the books right now. I mean, it's a log cabin, doesn't have, it does have insulation and stuff, but there's nothing about that house.
The stairs are a little bit steep.
Yeah, the
Step
stairs,
after the stairs onto the next floor.
yeah, there's nothing that would be code compliant on that house.
So my like, for example, the Bronto House or these other historic homes you've worked on, I mean, they're not code compliant with modern building techniques. They can't be because they're historic homes.
Well, I mean,
200-year-old home.
there's a certain amount of grandfathering in that's allowed. And if you're going back time period wise, it depends on, public use. If you're gonna open this up to the public full time, do you have to have handicap parking spots? Do you have a sprinkler system? ADA requirements in the bathrooms? And so when you don't open up all that, then you don't necessarily have to do all that.
So
You
our
can
goal-
bypass all that.
Our goal is
But you
not.
still have to do some type of permitting, you still have to do some type of permitting.
Well, yeah, but you'll have to have electrical.
Right.
You have to have that.
HVAC, so, and water, sewer, again, which is all there on site still, but I guess my question is, you mentioned like the difference between being open full-time, which is like 7 days a week or 6 days a week, all day, daylight,
Yeah.
dusk to dawn, versus the intent is, like other historic buildings in Sumner County, that they're managed by somebody or group, it's select hours it's open, or select weekends
Yeah.
or events. So it's not open all the time for somebody to come and be just selectively open, just like the Bronto House. And we're using the Bronto House,
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
the same model.
Yeah.
Same type, older than the Bronto House, but roughly the same period. That being said, that because of that, it doesn't fall under the same requirements since it's
Right.
not open all the time to the
Right.
public. Like this building is open all the time. to the
Well,
public.
even Rosemont's not open to the public full time. Yes, Kate is there for tours, but it's not, it's not open to the public 24/7. So you don't have to have certain things that today's codes would require.
Do you know Rosemont?
Yeah, I've never been there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool house.
That's good to know. I mean, because that's going back to the why do we have to have an architect? So I'd be curious to. This is a unique situation. It's not like a normal county building. I'd be curious to talk to our finance department and legal to understand. Like, do we really have to have this as part of the process, or and what? Because there's nothing to do. It's part of. So I guess that would be a good question for us to ask.
Oh,
'Cause that's going to save us a lot of money.
Me personally, I think on historic or historical structures, unless you're just adding a huge wing onto it, especially in demo when like we're doing now, there's no need for an architect because you will uncover, like we have, windows or doorways that an architect didn't see. So why draw all that up? And all of a sudden then our game plan changes, because we have a window or a door or whatever covered up. So let's figure out what the original configuration was and then work around that. And when I said in our very first meeting, you let the house dictate what you do. An architect's not going to do it. The house will do it.
Right.
And so you're spending $10,000 on an architect just to say, look at these drawings that, well, yeah, they're no good because we found A, B, C, and D. And now everything's changed.
We'd be lucky if we spent $10,000 on
Tim's just laughing because that's generous,
Sounds like
generous
a lot.
number that Sumner County comes up with, but it's what a normal human being comes up with, and not government. So.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like a lot. But it's not. Compared to what we see.
So like, yeah, unless
Okay.
you're just putting on a huge addition to modernize whatever.
Well, that's good, because I'm gonna find that out.
It's a question.
It's a question, because.
But if we have to, just draw what's there now. I mean, just something basic, dimensions, where the walls are. You don't have to put bathrooms in there, just, I mean, almost what we have now. I mean, we.
That's the goal that we
Yeah.
decided last week with this footprint.
Yeah.
It's like, knowing that David said when you guys looked at the roof structure, and I guess the beams or trusses coming out, this had to have been some kind of covered porch or something, at least in the early 1800s.
Room or something.
Well, see, that's what I thought it may have been because of the double doors. I thought,
Yeah.
I bet there was a porch here at some time, or.
But you said because the roof structure makes it evident it comes out over that, so it would have been original to when this B and C were built. Therefore we're like, well, let's keep this, because like like more of a, if there's anything
Yeah.
modern, it'd
Oh,
be
yeah,
this,
for
because
sure.
that's where the bathroom would be. If you needed a sink or whatever, or like a little small little area, like
Yeah.
like a little meeting table for like a kitty,
Yeah.
whatever.
What do the floors look like under that room?
What the floors look like under D.
I don't know.
Well, they look
That's a
they
lot of
look real
questions.
similar to what's under A.
Well, do you think under A or under B?
Oh,
and
the
C?
the floor structure?
You mean under
The-
B and C right here, or under A? where
The
there's concrete
structure
slab?
from the underside, because he crawled underneath there, looks very similar to A.
It's got concrete?
Okay, you're talking about under D?
Yeah,
So it
Okay.
probably wasn't, well, it could have been a
but I
porch.
think it's linoleum and we didn't peel it up.
I think, and then, it contradicts itself. I think D was an addition, but when you go in the attic and you see the old timbers, you're thinking, now, that very well could have been, which was typical, a wooden floored porch,
That's what I'm
and
thinking.
they tore it off.
Because you want to have.
And that would make
visual-
more sense.
Well, you want to have visual front door and back door. Back in those times, you want to see who's coming from both sides.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
there is no real access on the kitchen side over here, little bitty door, but that back porch would have provided a great view to see what's
You have
coming
a
from the
double
backside.
door, yeah.
That's
So
what
that's,
I'm
I mean, I guess that's a question. I mean, do
It'd be cool to make
you
it
keep
back
this
into a
enclosed,
porch.
or do you like
It'd be cool
Um,
to make it a porch.
make it a
I
porch?
think it would be too.
But I mean, maybe it's a porch, but with windows, like Bridal House did that on the back of theirs. It's windowed in.
Like a
You
slippery-
could.
Yeah, they did a great job on that over
Yeah,
there.
you could open 3/4 of it up and then have the other section, maybe towards the tail end of the house for storage and enclose that.
Well, I'm thinking more bathroom here. If there's an
Yeah.
existing bath, we wouldn't
There
want
is.
to get rid of that, because that's there, the plumbing's there, make that handicap accessible. It's a big
Yeah.
enough room, turning radius for a wheelchair, handicap, grab bars, everything, just make this where anybody can use this bathroom, handicap or not.
Yeah, we would need a bathroom.
Correct, and
We
we don't have
need
to worry about the one upstairs.
No, we won't tear that out.
Really tear it out, yeah, turn it back into, there wouldn't have been one up there.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been one here
Would
either.
you?
Point being, strip that, you only need the one. But I guess that's another good question we haven't thought about, is would you want to make this like a sunroom, but with a bathroom, closed off on this section?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
I do too.
Brings in, huh?
I like the open back porch, but
Oh.
either way.
Well, I think, there's something to think about, is like, is there any kind of use space for people actually using this space? Like, if you're gonna have like a group come in of 15 people, and you're gonna do a period, and it's raining, and you're gonna have a period thing, you're gonna have a monthly or quarterly thing where we're gonna do basket weaving or whatever, coon skinning, or make hats, whatever we're gonna do, or knife blading, so whatever, do you wanna make it where it's an actual, I'm not gonna say a craft room is not the word, but it's a usable space, not an open air where you're gonna freeze your butt off in January.
Well, you-
Needs
that
to be
whole-
outside.
Yeah, suck it up.
Hose it off.
Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah,
I'm just,
that makes sense.
I'm just thinking ahead of like what, like,
It could be either though, you could do half
We have
walls,
questions.
you could do roll down, clear
From the
windows
audience.
like restaurants do, you could.
we got an idea from the audience.
I work at Douglas Clark,
Okay.
and having a space that you can hold more than like 3 people in would, just from an
Be-
interpretive perspective, would be great.
That's what I'm thinking, like,
Because
just,
like if it rains or we do historic site kickoff or whatever, like I don't have space for people to come and hang out at all. partly.
I think it'd be a great idea if we could use it for that purpose of having 12, 13, 15 people in this space. I mean, it's
Yeah.
small, but like,
Well-
even if it's a, you know,
If you're
you,
gonna have students coming through or whatever, you need.
we know it's not original, that
We've
purpose.
got section C, which is huge,
It's 20 by 20. It's
Yeah,
the
it's a
size of a
huge
two-car
section.
garage.
that we could,
Oh.
that we need to utilize some way.
Yeah, because we're gonna tear out the kitchen,
Okay, well, maybe, okay.
and that is a good gathering.
D could be flexible though, like you could do half walls and roll down clear things like restaurants do to make it
Okay.
to
So you're saying
encapsulate
that,
if you
that
need to or not.
multi-use space could possibly see with the
Yes.
kitchen, rip that out?
That's what I've been.
And then we could do this, if this was probably a covered porch, we could go back to.
I think a
porch.
covered porch
Or
would
half
be
and
wonderful, and wonderful aesthetically to that house.
Okay, that
I
sounds
really
really
do.
good. That's even better, because that's less cost.
Yeah, yeah, and
Especially if you had that utility.
Try to look out for you.
That's great. Well, we hadn't discussed that before, because we just weren't
Yeah.
sure,
But
but.
still usable in certain weather, I mean, we
Yeah.
can still put people out there.
6 to
Well,
8
it's
months,
covered.
6 to 8 months a year.
It'd be a
you
covered
can use
porch,
it.
yeah, it's just like, you know.
yeah, and the prevailing winds are coming from the opposite side of the house.
We're gonna have original smoker out there, and we're gonna cure some hands.
Hey, there's a smokehouse right back behind it.
There is,
Well, we
yeah.
that might have to be a little
You're
restoration.
gonna waste all that raccoon.
Possum, come on, man, possum.
I have a
Thanks
question.
for entertaining my questions, that helps clarify. I think that, to bring it, this is how, to answer your questions, I think this is, what is the house telling us it needs to be? Then that's great, if this is a covered porch, let's make it, if there's room to have like space in the seat.
I just think
Utility.
people have a certain, no matter what time period it is, when you see a Victorian in the mid 1800s, late 1800s, you have a mindset of what it's gonna look like inside. So when you see a 1790s log house, people, like the floor, people are gonna expect to see wide plank floors.
Right.
People are kinda gonna expect to see a porch where grandpa was smoking his corn pipe, you know, in the afternoons after being in the field all day. You expect to see things like that goes with the time
That sounds
period.
great,
It really does.
even better.
I have a question. The, under the electrical, you're gonna be able to use the way it's already wired? Well, you're gonna be able to use the current wiring?
We've got to get that inspected as well as
Okay.
the current HVAC units. The
Okay.
units seem to be in good shape. but
Yeah, I looked-
They've been sitting
David
there
and I
for
looked at
quite a
one
few
upstairs.
Now, I
years.
did have an electrician reach out to me about this when I talked about it, and it was at Sumner County White House, volunteering his time to work on it for free, so that's one thing we
Wow.
mentioned. There might
Free?
be-
Can he pull permits?
I don't know, it's to ask.
It'll have to be. That is a state requirement.
Yeah, but I'm just, but there
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
but my
yeah.
point being, going
Yeah.
along with that, we discussed it last week, there are local artisans and craftsmen that would be willing to chip in as a part of this as well, to provide free labor just for the thing as well, you know, which is, it's something to consider that we might be able to save cost on, to be able to then use that to beef up something else.
Yeah.
Is the fact that we might have some community involvement in donating. I mean, and we've not even reached out to the community to see if the community like would be interested in donating to this effort for any reason. So, which is another part of this. I mean, right now we're just like, get us what we have. We just need to do it without asking people for money. But I mean, people might want to, so I don't want to.
Well, it'd be definitely worthwhile to get the historical community, in particular Kenneth Thompson, who's over Sumner County's Historical Society, to send an invitation out to some people to say, hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? I mean, I know we'll get a bunch of different ideas. We need to say we're going to do A, B, and C, and we're going to stick to it. But to have historians come in and feel a part of it, kind of like the artisans, I think is important.
Yeah, because we're going to need to have that type of story told. I'm sure like the Douglas Clark House, remember with the graphics and board like signage and just stuff that explains like the exhibits. Like we're going to have to go outside of this. What is that?
Yeah.
I think that's what a good place for a historical society in Sumner County and then
Might be a good idea to have maybe a history of the Shackle Island community. You know, there's not a central location that has any, really history of the Shackle Island community, which is a pretty historic community out there. And
Would you say that's part of Shackle Island, or is Ocana like?
it
more
sort of lies in
independent?
between.
I consider it Ocana. So,
Yeah.
But
But that was owned by everything down New Hope to there was all one
Yeah.
property, right?
Tract of property,
So that's
yeah.
why he's
So
saying
that-
Shackle Island.
Yeah.
So that would have been considered Shackle Island.
It would
back-
have, well, you know, us that have grown up out there considered Shackle Island. Now, you know, Ocana's over there, and some people now consider it Gallatin, so.
Well, but the oldest church in
Yeah.
the county, as I understand it, is a little further up on.
Up on Station County.
On the right, on the east side.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little Baptist
A
church.
little north of them.
Is it a Baptist
I
church?
think it is, but the Church of Christ.
Dave, question for you.
Okay.
Back to the laundry room area, D.
D.
Is there any mention of any work going on in this cost estimate?
Yeah,
Where is it?
we've got interior construction, insulation in.
D walls only, right
DC,
there.
yeah.
Walls,
Is it
drywall,
down,
D.
downstairs
Insulation.
bathroom rework, is that?
Insulation, wall surfaces?
Yeah,
And
bathroom,
paint.
bathroom rework would be D.
Okay, so it'll chip into some of those things, but as
Paint
far as
D.
what to do with that if we did decide to go that route by making it a porch or whatever, some of that would need to be reworked, but it may take away from some of those other projects. But turn it back into a porch may entail changing flooring or something like that, that may need to be looked at.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a wash once it's all said and
Those
done.
truck boards are period pieces, right?
Huh?
The truck boards, the,
Yeah,
it's the plastic composite
Plastic,
for
yeah.
decking that's
Oh.
not wood.
that's authentic.
We're gonna need some chamber pots too.
Yeah.
That was authentic back then. Cindy and I yesterday went over to the Douglas Clark house and toured. The young lady just spoke, actually was our tour
What's your name
guide.
again?
I'm Linda.
Linda. Thank
She
you.
was our tour guide. And they've done a great job over there with their posters and everything. You know, you can sit there and look, you can see the four brothers, the one that survived the Civil War. I mean, you can just follow it all the way around through the rooms. They did a great
And that
job
would be
there.
great to do that with some spotlighting and
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think you could use Ocana and Shackle Island both,
Yeah.
you know, in that, some type of, you know, poster board or whatever you're gonna do. I'm not sure who did theirs, but, I mean, they're very colorful, their
It's
information.
museum quality, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
museum
it's very, you know, they did a great job with that over there. And I could see using that type of
The
thing,
Douglas
especially
Park House,
with these.
yeah, we'd be doing it more ourselves. That was part of a grant, and so that's why.
Right,
but
yeah.
But it's a different, open full-time, having to have.
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah, I understand all that, yeah.
But the signs he's referring to can be done on Canva and printed out on a stone, it's on a foam-filled poster board, so it's nothing
And then you can
super,
seal it.
and you
yeah.
can just,
Or, yeah,
ours isn't even sealed,
Okay.
it's just.
Hanging on the
tacked
wall.
onto the wall.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And
Or you
that's
can do the
something,
plexiglass over it if you
that's
want.
something I would be willing to help with when we get to that stage.
That'd be
just
awesome. Thank you.
Throwing that out there. I
Leave
have a
your,
degree
leave your
in
contact
fabrication.
information.
That'd be awesome.
We need to know a price and how long it's gonna take.
By next
I
week.
already get paid.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
I already get paid, and I have many hours of research that I'm already doing, so, I mean, I'm already throwing Latimer stuff into its own folder as I go.
That's awesome.
If those who have already done a lot of that research can throw some of that my way, I would be
Do you have a
willing to-
card?
Y'all need to get
I do
together.
not have a card yet, but I
Okay.
can give you my email.
Yeah, you can, well, I'll give you that
Yeah.
afterwards.
Well, and Chris, you're a member of a lot of these historic societies around Sumner County. So, you know, I don't know how that, I mean, do they look, like, I was thinking where we were talking yesterday, man, if we could find a potbelly stove from the 1800s to
Well-
connect back to that.
Yeah, you and I were talking the other day. I can talk to Ryan over at the museum. They're wanting to move eventually, and they've got several of the potbelly stoves over there.
Oh, they do?
I guarantee he'd probably just say, take it. So we don't have to fool with it.
You don't have to move it.
Yeah,
They're
people
heavy.
donating
Yeah.
things, that period stuff, like, because we'll need to, when you get to it, like, you know, you'll need to stage it and furnish it as best as possible. with
Right.
Period, or replica pieces, like, this is what it would look like, the, you know, the little milling area, or whatever, you know,
Yeah,
kitchen
but
area.
the information boards with pictures to tell the story, and when you get back into B and C, this was added circa 1830s.
Yeah, that was what,
I
that's
think
what I
that would
had
be
vision.
wonderful. It, you know, not only would the house looking at it tells a story, but you can read it. And I think that's very informational.
And if anybody wants to go over to the Douglas Clark, they're open, Tuesday through Saturday.
Yeah, Monday through
Yep.
Friday, or is it Tuesday through
9
Saturday?
to 4:30.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Yeah.
The cool docent, which is me, is there Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. But I was gonna say, we also have a coalition now with all the historic sites here in Sumner County. So if you reach out to one, theoretically, they should be able to reach out to the rest of them and see what they have that they may not need.
Can we reach out to you?
Yeah, I can reach out.
I mean, you're saying perfect. You've been volunteering.
But,
Hey, you ought to go over for the tour. I mean, she did a great job. She enlightened us.
I mean, we could take I
Field
know,
trip.
a field trip
Field
like
trip.
on Saturday if you guys wanted to a couple hours. Obviously go
Yeah.
visit the Latimer home, go to the Douglas Park House, just go, I think we could do a little field trip,
I think that'd be wonderful.
go to the Bridal House.
Well, so everybody here can, you can see pictures all day long, but when you physically see it,
Yeah.
now you know what we're talking about. Like the floors and the framing and the walls and different things.
Yeah, speaking of pictures, I showed this to Mike today, but this is
Okay.
what was
I can email it to
lacquered
you.
onto the logs upstairs. It says Tennessee Methodist, November 10th, 1892. And we probably want to keep that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And cover it with
Cover it,
plexiglass.
yeah, cover it so it's safe.
So, David, I did some research on that,
Yeah.
not long after. So Tennessee Methodist was a publication that came out, obviously.
By the Baptists, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was, in
Yeah.
the late 1800s. So whoever was living in the house at the time had this publication and covered the walls with it.
They had a Methodist publishing house in Asheville.
They sure
Yeah.
did.
That's probably where it came from.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, there was a shoe in the underneath the floor there. There's some really cool wallpaper over
Said shoe.
history that we,
It-
that
Hey,
we've been
would
saving.
that be cool to display?
Yeah.
I forgot.
Oh, absolutely.
I really cleaned that up too.
You polish it.
I did. I put some leather conditioner in there. That I
Because
used.
you found
for
it
my-
buried in mud, right?
Huh?
Half buried in mud?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All you could see was the arch of the back heel.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
And I
he
dug
saw
around to
this,
see if there was another one.
Look at that.
And
There's stuff
he
underneath there too.
dug it out
That's pretty amazing.
as the buzzards were attacking.
Well, the buzzards are.
That's the most interesting part right there.
And he clapped his gardens.
They probably wore it until. the
Yes, wore it
toes
out,
were sticking
wore it completely out.
And they had to
Yeah.
get it.
You're a kid.
My
That-
mom was
that's
born in
bad.
33 and she said they used cardboard
So
to
is,
stick in when
there's
they're
all
sold.
time, well, we don't have time, but is there anything for us else to discuss with this? Or just, I guess,
Good friend.
talking next steps, because obviously
Metal detector.
this budget is paramount. We have to have this. Although we've obviously given some options for you, Chris, to talk about, like, how can we modify the budget? But like, 'cause I'm trying to figure out how can we move this, like, when's this gonna be right to send it, move it on up? And
When do you need it by?
Yesterday.
No.
Yesterday?
We won't be able to bring this before the committees until the 1st of July.
Okay.
So we got a month. I would like to push this up 1st of July, it's like, here's some stuff, let's start talking, here's what we can do. But I think we could definitely do another ad hoc if we need to, but, before then. But we would need, pretty much by the mid of June, 2 weeks before the next Gen Ops meeting, which is gonna be,
Do we need to do anything interior wise, exterior
Well,
wise?
it sounds like.
I mean, I know we don't have dumpsters or anything like that, but it's, with trailers, we can haul off stuff, we can,
Yeah, as long
or
as
are
you're
we
not-
not 100% sure this is gonna come to fruition?
we don't know. I mean, if we're gonna be positive,
Yeah.
and I think on the bright side, we're gonna say yes to all the above. We're not gonna have a problem getting a driveway in, or a parking lot, or cut through.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have problems doing any of these things. I mean, if people wanna give us problems, then that's just, we'll have to do those road plots we go, and it's gonna be what it is. But we're just, I guess, at this point, one thing we need is think positively, hope for the best, pray for the best.
Yep.
So July 7th is our next Gen Ops meeting, so we would need to have, by the 23rd, I would need us to get some information to our finance department as far as like any plans or budget requests, like basically like square footage, this tightened up, like, worst case scenarios, and I'm gonna inquire about the architect, like, what does TCA really say in this situation? Does it apply? Is it, I mean, we're not building a new structure.
So week of 16th to the 20th, we'd like to have that information in, so that you can prepare to.
So in order to get that information, we really need to nail some things down. Or at least say, okay, we're gonna tear up the floor and we're gonna go back with.
Well, that's what I just
We
told
need to-
David, I
we need
want
to
him
nail
to
some
give, I
things
want
down.
the deconstruct and reconstruct option on the floor. Let's fill this out, the worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, the logs have to be done in the walls, outside walls, right there, you're gonna have sagging.
We'll have, yeah.
And let's keep in the fact that we wanna go back to original windows.
Yes.
Yeah.
In here, if that's in here, let's keep that. We do need to add the floor, that's not in here. I don't know, I don't think there's anything else that I saw, other than, me asking about the architectural fees with finance and legal about that, like how that works. And I know, there would be several architects that we could get to provide estimate or quote if you had to have somebody do something. I mean, just to satisfy state law for some weird reason on this instance, but again, I'm curious how these other homes
But see,
did things without an architect.
I've never had to have one, but nobody's ever questioned me about it. Even when I pull permits, no, the codes guys.
Well,
will
this,
say,
but
"Well,
have you
not
ever,
working for the
have you ever had to have a
yeah.
have you ever had to have a legislative body vote on
No.
the 13 votes? And
No.
argue from the floor for 2 hours about $2,500?
No,
Okay, it's a different,
yeah.
this is why people hate government.
Yeah.
This is why I hate government.
Is the wiring in the house, was it replaced in the 60s, or does it go back further than that and they just?
I have not seen anything that there was knob and tube.
Okay.
It's all
which is-
Romex.
Which, it's all
Okay,
Romex.
so it's
all
fairly new,
Romex, yeah. If there was at one time, it's all done, it's all gone.
And, that's one of the things that Chris and I were talking about, is how much electrical do we need or want in that building? I mean, if you do a residential.
We want spotlights everywhere.
Then that, okay.
We don't want it dark. We want to be, we want spotlights.
Track lighting. You want track
lighting or
lighting.
recessed can lighting or something to really light up the area.
Well, if we go back with original windows, let's just say we replace logs and we go back to
It's gonna get
original.
darker.
It's gonna be dark.
So we're
It's
gonna
be
need
dark.
the interior illumination. So I would say, but definitely for the fact that if you're gonna have displays on walls, we're gonna need that
Yeah.
track lighting, spotlighting, or whether, when you go to the bridal house, they've got spotlighting and track lighting. It's just well lit in place in the corners and you're hitting the right spot and
Yeah.
angle to bring that highlight. But it's not everywhere. You don't have lights like these
But then
crappy
you count the
fluorescent.
plugs that are throughout the house, a lot can be done with plugs.
I mean, I would say,
And then the upstairs.
I'm all about putting plugs every 12 inches, but
Well,
the more the merrier. But
You can't have two.
I
I mean,
If the upstairs is gonna be utilized as basically storage and really not done anything with, there's a lot of circuits that'll be freed up.
I think the
That could
upstairs,
be-
yeah, it would be more just like,
Pull
hey,
more
you
power
walk
downstairs.
around and look at the upstairs of the bridal house, and you can go upstairs and look, but it's kind of
You
like cramped. It'd be the same, and it's that little narrow staircase,
Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you can't get up there in a wheelchair, it ain't, it's-
But it can also just used for storage.
now the bridal house isn't. The bridal house is, they've got it set up like it's
No,
a
it's
a
period.
living,
like, what would
period,
that look
living
like in a
house.
family? I think.
Upstairs is.
Theirs is closed off, you can't get upstairs.
Oh, you can't on the, that was
Yeah, our
closed?
upstairs is closed off. I was told that county didn't want people going up there. I don't know.
It's a hazard, those stairs.
Here again, that's a different situation, because that has, because of the.
That was a grant.
That is a difference, because of the grant, we're doing like the bridal house, it's kind of like, who cares?
You go upstairs all the time.
Fireman's pole, come down. And it's more,
But we can do whatever we want with it, that's what I'm saying.
we're not under the same restrictions as the Douglas Clark House.
Yeah, because of the grant, because.
The state's involved with that one. It's like it's because of the grant restrictions, and so it's a lot more, I mean,
Well, when I did Rosemont, and that was funded by the state through a grant, they didn't, we turned the back section into the original two-story porch, but they didn't say anything. They were just tickled to death that it was getting done and back to original, and they didn't say, well, you need a sprinkler here. Well, you got to make sure your rail height is 36 inches. There were no provisions. They were just tickled to death that it was being.
How long ago was that?
Last.
Oh, so it's current, it's current. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Everything bubbling though.
well, that's great. Well, hopefully we can, that's the case here. I think that the upstairs, yes, we need to finish it out, make it period.
Who owns that house now?
Rosemont.
Rosemont.
I think the county owns it.
I think so.
Is it the county?
I can't remember.
Or is it the city?
City of Gallatin, they own
The
it.
city of Gallatin.
They
owns
own it. So it's a
Yeah.
Gallatin city.
Yeah, because they mentioned
They-
Paige
Gallatin-
quite a few times about going to her for things, so I would assume.
There, it's City of Gallatin. It's
City
the
of
government, just the wrong government. Yeah. Because they do events out there, they do Gallatin does, fundraisers.
Oh, yeah.
Over at the Douglas Clark, I noticed in the rooms that are logs, and there's logs in the building, they use the, I guess it's galvanized pipe, that they run the electrical, that's how they did it, they just drilled right through the logs and run the piping to do, they didn't go through in the walls. Now, in the newer section, you have plugs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the older section,
Yeah,
they
that's what,
just,
I mean, that's what we would do, but just.
Well, the wonderful thing about what we're doing is getting, I would assume, getting rid of all the old concrete chinking. We're opening up in between.
So
the
you can
logs,
run- you-
inside and outside. I mean, I'm envisioning a big log house of just bare logs. Obviously, we have to do either the inside or the outside first because of weather. We can't just open everything up. But if we open up those chinking joints, that's a wonderful way to hide
And run the
electrical, because
electrical.
I personally hate seeing all the
That's true.
exposed
That's
stuff.
true. That's a great point. You know, it's a big difference between those two houses, the way they're constructed too, so.
Yeah.
I will say, as someone who works in a historic house, please put plugs like upstairs though, because if you have an electric vacuum, it's really hard to clean in the backside of my house where there are no electric outlets.
No, I would say electric, lights upstairs, plugs upstairs,
Yeah.
for sure, just because.
Downstairs, we put them all on the floor. We don't have to necessarily worry about them in the
In the
chinking
chinking.
joint. We put them in the floor.
That's a great idea. So I think, I mean, this has been, I don't know if you guys had any more to present or discuss, or
Well,
what do you?
yeah, I want to have a to-do list. So you said give substitute prices for the four options.
Demo and reno.
Yeah,
And
and,
rebuild.
and I'm gonna talk to the architect Robin E. Hood about,
Well, I'm gonna talk to finance and legal, see like,
Yeah.
where do we fall here on this? Like, what, I mean,
If it's a sign off.
we're not architecting anything, we're just literally just, we're not even changing this, other than just bringing stuff to the code, it's just like, the header you're gonna fix, it's not drooping.
Oh, yeah.
I'd
You
say
know.
let him find out first. before you-
okay.
So, I mean, those types of things, I mean, it's only improving the building to make it stable.
We're not changing the floor plan.
Yeah, you're not
Just
knocking
keying.
out walls, you're
Yeah,
actually
we're
gonna.
not.
Yeah.
On area D, we've got a bathroom that obviously needs to be inside.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna expose this, you would keep this obviously enclosed.
Right.
Almost like a pool house, you know, you do that, and then you got your open,
So
that's an open
somewhere
porch.
along the line, we should build a wall.
Well,
Where this is
build the
complete,
wall better.
encased in, you're.
Right,
it's
and
just-
then we would get rid of
It's already a wall. It's
this
just an
exterior wall here.
And make it a porch.
And that double door opening that's in this wall could look out on top.
Correct.
That
you
would
put a
have to
door
be
there.
turned to an exterior door and an exterior
Yeah,
wall.
that's
Okay.
what I was saying earlier.
It's
Use
already a
3/4
wall.
of it for a porch, and the other half, or
The back is your bathroom.
other 15 feet, use it for a bathroom.
That's
You
right.
could actually make that bathroom a little bigger.
Well, yeah, but it's big enough. we can-
Yeah, because you've got 30 feet
It doesn't have to be.
from here to
Yeah.
here.
But we
You
can.
should.
Yeah.
I mean, and that one you should, it's a neat, I don't think it's a hard one, make it big enough for everybody.
Are you gonna add a door right here?
Well, there's one right here,
Right.
and we could put a wall right there.
Just depends on how big you want the porch.
Right, and I think we want to give the effect of a porch, so somewhere along the line, we'll put a wall there and we'll get rid of all this exterior
Right,
wall.
yeah.
Does there need to be some kind of provisions made for maybe a security camera out there or something?
Oh, yeah,
There would be
absolutely.
nothing worse than getting this house
Oh, yeah.
redeveloped and everything, and then some drunk teens go in one night and decide they want to start a fire.
Teens drink?
Yeah.
Do you guys have a security system?
Well, we've had the
We have
cameras, had the
cameras
back,
all over,
the back doors.
Now, do you guys want, is that monitored through the
Yeah,
county
I've
IT department, is that
screwed it
monitored
back
through just, you
And
guys
I've
just have
seen-
like a.
I've seen where
IT
I
station.
been in
don't
and around the
know.
yard, outside of me.
That's
So
what
like-
I'm-
Andrew
so it's-
says we have access on our computer, but I was never taught how to access it.
So somebody's, but it's a paid service where it's monitored, so.
And we have an alarm system as
Can you-
So
well.
it's being hosted on the cloud somewhere, so we need to find out, we can find that. These are great questions for us to find out, but yeah, to answer Jim's question.
With a lot of the
So yes, Jim, we'll figure that out, definitely. But those are, I would say that's more of a, doesn't necessarily have to be a part of this. Lauren?
Thank you for letting me, to your point about having the non-negotiables and the flex, it seems like you should do that also with timing. So what decisions have to be made first versus which can go second and third? And just off the top of my head, thinking about the biggest expense here are the logs. So if you make that decision to take the brick off and source the logs, then the rest of the stuff, you can figure out what really needs to flex and what not. If you get the really expensive thing out of the way first and agree on that in the windows, like how you want that, then the rest of the decisions, like the floor and all that, plaster versus sheetrock, you'll know how much money you have left. So it seems like that has to go in a sequence too.
I think, unless you guys disagree, I mean, brick comes down, all original logs, original windows, original floors. I mean, that's,
I think she's talking about sourcing the logs that are gonna.
I know, but it's
window holes
answering
and
that question, it's all
stuff
still a
like
part of it, because if you're not replacing logs necessarily, because you're not replacing the windows, it's a little less, a heavier lift, but it depends on original windows or the new windows.
Or leave what's there now.
Or leave what's there now.
And if
not
you leave what's
replace
there,
anything.
if you leave what's there now, there's no replacing logs, pretty much.
What-
You're
So-
just leveling them up.
I mean,
What
I don't know if we
replaces
can
the
answer that
window?
question, because we don't know what we're gonna get into.
What's in the place of the old window? Is there already a log there?
No, yeah, it's covered up.
It's
By
covered
bricks.
up
The
the
brick's
side.
covered it up.
Yeah, but we're taking the brick down, so what's there? Is there a big
Once the
hole?
brick comes open,
Yeah.
comes off, the window starts opening up.
There's a hole there in the
There-
log where the old window was.
Yes.
So to her
Yes.
point, we would have to source some kind of material to fill that hole. Would it be a log, or would it be faux shutters put on the window
Be a
to
log.
cover over that?
It'd be an entire, unfortunately, you have a 18-inch window. If you want to get rid of it, you're gonna have to replace that whole log.
You don't put sections of logs in, you have to replace the whole log. So that's what she's, I think, talking about, and that's a question that we've gotta figure out is.
Because then if you get down to the floor, like you prefer the planking, but if it eats up $250,000, you might be stuck with, in that sense, it's the timing. So you gotta make that first decision is the logs, right?
I
Or,
mean, is it? I don't know.
because it's your
Well,
biggest part of your budget.
We've got $100,000 in there for the logs, with in mind replacing them and going back to the original.
But if it comes out at 50, I have no idea.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
you could say, well, now we can pay for plaster.
Yeah, oh, I totally agree.
So my
Totally
point
agree.
is, there's probably a sequence of things that have to be done based on construction, that you have to make this decision first, but this can wait till the end versus.
The biggest dollar amount's the logs, and that's the biggest unknown. That's why it's the biggest dollar amount.
Is there any leaks in the roof?
Mm-mm.
And it's a metal roof right now?
Yeah.
Metal roof right now.
We'll be able to keep that metal roof, or I gotta replace it and put a new one on?
We'll replace it, put a new one on it. And that's another thing. Do we want to go with another?
I didn't put a,
Why?
you did on your
I did on mine, yeah.
assessment, but I didn't do it because I figured, let's wait till the roof starts
Do
leaking.
we have to?
Don't have to.
Does it period looking enough, the way it is?
Last meeting.
It's gonna be another metal roof?
Well, period would be shake shingles.
I know,
mean,
but
that's
the next step from shake shingles, cedar, whatever would be.
The Bridal
metal,
House has
right?
a red metal roof on
Yeah.
it, or green metal roof, whatever, so I wouldn't.
I think
So we
that's
okay
typical of
leaving
what
it
you
like
see
that?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think,
mean, that's a decision
We're not
that
going
you
to
guys
replace
can
the
make.
shingles.
No,
Are we
no,
good with
I'm
what's
saying,
there
can we
now,
leave
or?
Metal would, I would think would be fine.
But could we leave that roof that's there, or do we have to have it?
I think we can leave it. We may have to
So you
do
did,
some fixes once the
Soffits come off.
the brick
Yeah.
comes off.
you did not include the roof in this, so it's not part of the estimate.
Right.
But definitely be some flex there. where brick
Should
come
we
down.
put that as a little addendum note, like if we had to do a new roof, what's the cost or price there?
I can add,
Can we add that as just another, if we're gonna move refinish the floors, let's move it down to the notes.
I don't think that's. cons-
I think,
Like, let's also have in the notes, like, what is it?
last week's, it showed a metal roof at $18,000 and a
Right.
demoing it was $8,000.
Right.
We can use it regardless.
So you're looking at
I mean,
about
look,
$26,000
somebody stole the roof off
basically.
of-
Hold on.
And
What
used
were
it
you saying?
again.
I said in last week's paperwork, it showed a it's not here, but it's on last week's, it estimated $18,000 for a new metal roof. And to demo the existing metal roof was $8, so it's total $26,000 for a roof.
All right, how much make that make?
We just have to be sure that there's no chance of that doing all this work, and then we got any leaks up there that you get set back with.
Yeah. Caulk, just squeeze some caulk up there.
Inspect the roof,
what
leave
everybody
it
does.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Mike, for doing it. We already got, I just.
But is that something we, do we need to throw some worst case scenarios in this budget to say, hey, we're at 549 right now, not right now, but after worst case scenarios, because I'm assuming we have to present it to somebody.
Oh, we gotta go through committee
Oh, I
process and full
know.
commission.
So taking a look at all avenues would be beneficial to us and
Yes.
say, okay, now we got all this approved, we're gonna get started. Hey, we really, now that we're up on a lift or whatever, taking the brick out and really looking at the roof, we've decided not to replace it. Well, okay, that's $30,000 off. I guess what I'm getting at is, when I look at this, if I were over the committee that's gotta approve all this, well, where's your roof? Are you gonna replace a roof? We don't really know, but we've got a number in there, at least somebody to look at a number.
I can
I think it's
add,
worth add, we want to just add that.
I can
into
add
the
a
main-
block that's alternatives.
There we go.
And-
Just make a second
I'll
page,
just-
maybe
yeah.
another page or however.
Yeah, and I'll
Because
just
it may
say,
be great looking right now, we get up there and realize it's been patched 17 times.
And that's what I'm getting at.
We need to go
And it's
ahead.
Because of the
Structures.
unforeseen.
Tommy had said that Mr. Brown said there was some spot on it that was leaking. I don't know where it was at, and his going out there and visiting with everything, he'd mentioned that there was some spot somewhere on there that was leaking, but I don't know where it was at.
yeah, I haven't seen
I've
it.
been inside the house when it's been pouring down rain.
It should be.
Yeah, it looks dry, it looks
You
dry.
were there when, you would know if it was leaking.
I would guess if it was leaking, it's where the back part connects with the front part, I guess between,
B?
Yeah.
A, B?
yeah, between A and B, because if you'll notice,
Down
they've
that wall.
got, down that wall, they've got that metal siding bent up.
They
It's
do.
gotta be at least a foot.
Yeah,
And it's caught, it is caught.
yeah.
I would suspect it may have leaked there at one time, and they went in and did that, because that looks like a whole sheet that just, they bent it. I don't see how they bent it.
David, is the house secure now? Did somebody fix the back door?
The side door had been kicked in. I tried to make it look like it was
It's
closed
been
and
kicked
locked.
in several times.
I've screwed the back door shut now.
The back one or the side one?
No.
On the
The
patio.
side one, sorry.
So you screwed that
I
in?
screwed- oh, yeah.
Then it's
Oh, yeah.
secure.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
secured, as it will ever be.
Yeah.
All right.
And just to let you know, Chris, in the past, has used a guy who makes custom windows, period. And for $1,600 a window, I think it's a smoking
Oh,
deal.
wow.
And then the period doors, it was interesting to look at those pictures, because that's exactly what we were talking about yesterday, was wide planks with a Z support and back. That's what the doors look like. And so, I don't know what they use for hardware, I guess.
Piece of leather. That's what they started with, they didn't have
That's what they
anything
used to
else.
use for hinges.
They didn't have anything
they
else
really
to
did.
do to it.
Okay, well, what I'm gonna start doing is refining the design, and I'll do the alternative block on here. And I probably ought to talk to the electrical company out there, and probably need to talk to White House Water and see what, get some real prices. I mean, we threw in dollar amounts for some of this stuff, but a lot of it I didn't, it's just a guess to.
You think you'll be able to use the existing sewer or septic?
I think so. We we threw in a little bit of money for that.
Has there been any response from the other departments about the driveway or the cutting in the entryway right there?
We've not asked, or really thought about it. I mean, right now, it's like right now, you don't, technically just don't have gravel on a tile. I mean, it's like a normal construction site, you just drive over it. I mean, you need access. Like, that happens all the time without cutting through anything, so I think that's kind of, we talked about that last week in the workaround. So,
Because you're not gonna be able to get anything down there until that's done. Well, I guess you could do like David did today. He went up through the elementary school and jumped the curb and up the hill and
Well, that's
down
how I
and
do it.
around.
Yeah, that's how I do it. That's
Yeah,
how we- yeah.
we
Yeah.
did it together.
I did it on my
So-
lawnmower on the upper side.
So you're gonna get, thank you for all you guys' work on this, David and Chris, for coming to estimate, because this is an important part, and obviously we need to get this more polished and as close to accurate and, I mean, things come to the county all the time, they give, everything comes to us as an estimate. And it's always overestimate.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
With all the bids, everything.
Well, that's why I was saying, do worst case scenario.
We definitely want to, but like, worst case scenario is like, hey, let's replace the floor, not refinish it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the original one, is not use the existing one. Let's, new metal roof, let's put that in there, in destruction and new metal roof instead of keeping it. But with addendum, hey, this is worst case scenario. We don't think it's necessary, but this is,
Yeah.
if. And I'm glad, I'm very happy about the laundry room being D, being able to be a covered porch again, and we can still use C as kind of a utility, multi-use space for like gatherings.
That's a big area back there.
It is, and that's gonna be some cost savings right there on having to refinish all that interior, it's just
Yeah.
ripping it out and stubbing it. I mean, I guess whatever we can do to make it look period for a porch
Yeah.
from the 1790s.
Do you think?
Cedar posts.
Request out.
Holding it up
Absolutely.
with the, so you can put your milk bucket on it.
Absolutely.
Time and materials.
Hey, it's my grandfather's too.
Not tonight.
I mean, that's what they did. They didn't use
You
gold.
went out in the woods and cut it down.
Yeah, and you had it up in an hour
Exactly.
because
Hack the
it's,
branches off.
yeah, hack
Yeah,
branch
branches
off.
off.
Instead of
Yeah.
trying to mill it.
Yeah.
We could do it offline, yeah.
I'm gonna put, in construction breakdowns, you always put a contingency, and it's anywhere from 5 to 15%. I think I'll go 15% contingency, and that just means
Cover.
we're gonna run into something, and we'll deal with it through this contingency.
That could be pushing us up towards our max budget with that. And the
Well,
roof.
15% on, what is this here?
409.
409.
$60,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and plus the 30,000 for a roof, that's $90,000, so we got 50,000 left at that point with the contingency in the roof.
Yeah,
Based on estimate.
10%.
okay, 10%.
I mean, that's a
Well,
pretty,
it brings me to something. What about, I know a budget, I think it was budget, or it might have been Gen Ops. We'd asked Mr.,
Shelf, Matt Shelf.
I
talking
forget.
about our finance guys?
I think it was one of the grant writer. It's a new grant writer.
Yeah, Scott Shamrock.
Shamrock, I kept trying to call him every name
It's
but
either
that
him or
today.
Dustin.
And he was asked to look into that. Has anybody had
Look into what?
anything, some type of grant?
No, we've decided not to do that, no. because
Really?
It's too restricted.
Ties-
You do that?
Well, there are different kind of grants.
You do that, we're gonna.
No, I know all about
Ad-Hoc's
that.
dead.
Yeah, no, I understand all that, but there's all kinds of grants. There's not just some that are, you're tied down, you gotta do it, ADA compliant, all this, there's all kinds of
We'll slow
historic grants.
everything down, so we're gonna see what we can do with what we have first.
Okay, all right, well, I just wanna make sure, because I knew that he was gonna look into that.
If
and I
you
never
get
heard
some
anything
kind of grant, there's gonna be strings tied to it and requirements.
Okay.
We
All
wanna
right,
do
that's
this,
fine.
the
All right,
county.
then
it's a
everybody
county-
tonight goes out and buys a lotto ticket.
County project.
It's
yeah.
217 million, so,
But it just, the goal is we have $587,000.
Yeah.
With the original starting
Okay.
budget for this.
that's fine.
As we're
I
working
just
it
knew
out.
we had talked about, or he had talked about it, and didn't know, I never had heard anything.
I
else
never
about
heard him talk about it from the table, at least, maybe, but it's like.
Well, somebody asked him to look into it.
Okay, yeah, that might have been original on the way on, I was pushing for it, but then they basically told me all the caveats, and like, oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. But
I got
they
it.
looked into it, and it was like, you don't.
And
wanna
that's
do
what,
it.
and that's what it was.
Yeah, because then, I mean, then you're looking at a 5-year project, that should be a 5-month project.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay,
So,
I think, for what it's worth, even if you add, let's just say even if we added a roof cost in there, added a wide plank flooring in there, we're still under budget. And I
Yeah.
think that's pretty cool.
I think it's amazing.
For a 1790 house.
I was pleasantly surprised about that.
I think that's really good.
Well,
And we were adding fat.
Oh, we were.
We're going, okay, we think it's gonna cost 3,500, let's throw in 5.
well, and that's the difference between, unfortunately, government mentality versus like the business world mentality, which is the real world of like being efficient. But government's just going to bloat it and unnecessarily And I was thinking, gosh, this could be $1 million project because the county's involved in it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like knowing, or the state's involved in it with a grant. It's like, oh, we can get $400,000 and match it. Well, let's make it $1 million project versus like, it doesn't need, like, that's the kind of thinking that we have to overcome here is that, just that mentality of just other people's money and let's just blow it versus
Yeah.
like, this not be conservative, this is a gift with a limited amount. So, and we can do it within the amount with no extra frills. And if the county or the school board at a later date want to do all this other crazy stuff outside the house, but I mean, that's why I wanted to print out to you guys this, which you have here. And Chris, if there's a copy, I can give you one. This is our last resolution we did in October, but it repeats the will and codicil. All stand for we're gonna all rise for the reading of the codicil. You know, the first whereas, the end of it, with the historic home currently situated thereon being permanently maintained by the county as the park centerpiece. And so we've established the park. It's the William and Martha Brown Park. Memorial Park, you know, and that's what they did at the county commission did the same thing at the Bridal House. At the Bridal House, and then we have the park named after the last owner of the Bridal House. It's a couple acre lot of just grass. That's the park. It's a park. The swing set. That's it. That's the same thing. That's the same thing we've done here. We've followed the precedent set by the previous county commission with the Bridal House for this. We're doing the exact same thing they did. So we've established the park in the name of the landowners. The home, in my opinion, should be the Latimer home is the name, and I think that's what, in honor of the original 200-year history.
You want to name it Latimer Brown or just Latimer?
Latimer, either way.
Latimer, in my opinion. It's a Latimer house because at the William and Martha Brown Memorial Park. I'm just getting
That's
in.
perfect.
That's not a part of this discussion for our construction, but I'm just getting into the weeds here because it's an homage to the family who built it. It wasn't the Browns. The Browns just took it over in the 60s. I mean, it's like, I mean, they're endowment, but it's, you know, whatever honor and homage, where they do a plaque with their photos, you know, in there, the Browns, and put family photos and could do a whole exhibit just for William and Martha Brown inside the home. But I think it's the Latimer home because that's what the home is. It's like the Latimer home. The Douglas Clark House is not the last person who owned it, lived it. It's the original building in the pioneer days, whatever. So I think it's the same thing. But
I think Mr. Brown recognized this historical significance of it too.
Absolutely, that's why we wanted it to maintain.
We want the pedigree to be.
But I think it's just this is important, the resolution, to understand what passed unanimously by the county commission, the language in this. I just wanted to point that out. But that's just, I know it's not part of this discussion, but it's that's what I think should be done, is the right thing to do, since the park is already named that, and then give the honor to the family. So, all right, David, so you guys want to come back a little bit more and beat this up some?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk with our finance and legal department about the architectural, basically our construction and renovation policy that we passed in November, because we're following this policy and we've got to stick to this as part of this process. Like we're doing the entire step one now. I mean, we're doing it all and getting this out. I think we're in a good shape on that. Obviously, if we're able to present this to Gen Ops the 1st of July, we want to clean it up and make some kind of document package, you know, and get some.
So that's where it goes to Gen Ops?
It goes to Gen Ops next. Yeah, it's got to go to the finance director before it goes to Gen Ops.
Right.
It's got to be right for our finance department to approve it, to go to Gen Ops, and then it would go to budget, and then it goes to the full commission.
Yeah.
It could all happen in 1 month. It could all happen in 6 months. I don't know how to answer that question.
So information needs to come in the week of the 16th through the 20th in order to get it to the finance director on the 23rd.
Is that house covered by any kind of insurance?
Yeah,
It is.
I asked 500,000.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So David, yeah, I would need information from you and Chris by the week of the 16th of June, that week. Because I would need to get stuff to David Law and the finance department by Monday, the 23rd. So the 16th to the 20th that week. So that's roughly 3 weeks away. The 19th of June is 3 weeks from today. But that just, I know you're going to do it faster than that, but buttoning this up, anything else we can add to the spreadsheet work that you guys have done, the estimates.
Okay.
Obviously, we got some drawings, you know, we got the square footage. We'll talk about the architect, because we know, as far as the initial concept of projects, we're down the line. We've gone through 1A, B, C, and D, Well, not C and D, because we've not.
By
gone
government
yet.
measurements, it's going light years.
Yeah, and that's because we're doing these ad hocs, and we've done it 2 weeks in a row, so thanks you guys for doing this, but, so we could potentially, I don't wanna plan another ad hoc right now, we've got it tentatively for June the 3rd. So, well, I'll say this, the 3rd, Thursday in June, which is June the 19th, the county building is closed for the Juneteenth holiday. So we could move it to the 18th, which is I'm out of town actually on vacation that entire week, so I won't be here, but you guys, if you wanted to do that week, you can meet, but I don't know if we need to meet again. I think we've got enough stuff, but if you guys wanted to meet that week, you could, and do it, call, you could do that, David, and lead that meeting. The week of the 16th to the 20th of June, to get that information from you to dead last, so we can get it to David Lawing. I'd like to get into that week a week ahead of time, so if he's
Yeah.
got problems that we push back, you guys can
No, we'll,
find things.
we'll go right to work on it.
The next time you would see any of this talk come up would probably be the next Gen Ops meeting after that, right?
July
The
7th,
So.
if approved by
if-
finance.
But if things come up between now and then, we can always add an ad hoc meeting in there.
Yeah, we could do a
have
meeting
time
the
to
week of
do
the
it.
23rd, we could do a meeting the week of the 9th of June.
We could do the 1st and the 4th too.
We could do a meeting next week we had.
Because we only need to notice it for 3 days, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so,
We could do it that week before
3 days is
Gen
kind of the
Ops.
safer, 2 days, used to be, I always said 2 days, the former law director did, but like 3 days I think is ideal at a minimum.
We have a short week right before the first Gen Ops meeting too, so we have a few days there in June.
Yeah,
If needed for Ricky.
I mean, so I think we're flexible on days and times, but I think we've got what we need. I think it's now getting buttoned up. So we can talk to you and get some more information off, get your contact information, so we can start emailing information. Send you all the photos, stuff we have, and you can look through it all. It would be great to get your opinion on that. I mean,
There was one thing that Chris and I talked about, that how, we're gonna have to come back and put some sort of a siding on B, C, and D.
an exterior siding,
An
like a wood, well, I mean, that's the question, like so is that accounted for in here, the wood, like a siding that was 1800s?
We did go exterior construction, we did a siding, lap siding, possibly a cementitious material.
Where's that? I see back
It's
log
under
walls.
exterior construction, almost center.
Siding, okay, I see it.
So we've got,
So,
what, 12?
so that would be the B and C, that's siding, okay, so we're accounting for that.
12,000.
Yeah, we put in 12,000, but I used, it's not Hardy board, it's called Nietzsche board, and it's made by Georgia Pacific or somebody like that.
Paintings look like wood but last forever.
Yeah, and it's a good way to go. What did they do with the Clark?
We have party board.
You have Hardy board?
They started out with wood and then after 5 years had to replace it, so it's
Yeah.
already board now.
Wood just doesn't last.
So we would need to use a modern day product for that siding, and that is,
That's what you want to do, yeah.
I think so. I mean, if it's more cost effective for that long, for the permanent maintenance of the home and for the, in that sense.
Yeah, I'll do a takeoff and talk to Tuck's building supply up.
But you've already got that on here, so it's accounted for.
Yeah, I want to tighten up numbers.
That's an
That's
estimate though, right?
Yeah, that's just an estimate.
Like I said,
Is that product, is that like mold resistant, moss and stuff like that? Cause that's gonna grow in that, cause it's down,
Yeah,
really
well,
down,
that
falling trees.
that's got more to do with the paint, the moss resistance and stuff,
It won't rot or deteriorate.
Right, because it's cementitious, and the difference between Hardy board and Nietzsche board is a monolithic manufacturing process where Hardy board is layered, and the layer can peel back, so, and the Nietzsche board was cheaper when I put it on in the 1920s.
Well, I know we're optimistic this is under budget. I've been here 7 years, and this is only the second time that any project has been estimated under budget.
Well, I'll be more than happy to help out from here.
The first one was just 2 months ago with our health department, and they came in under budget on something, so the county's not have to spend any more. But that was a surprise from Hal Hendricks, and so he's the first departmental head that's ever come in under budget on a
But
project.
it came in under the threat of canceling the project if it came in over.
Well, true, and then, okay, to Tim's point.
That's very important.
Yeah,
Note.
canceling the project.
It's called having a gun to your
It
head.
may be a new way to go forward.
But this, we know we have
Instead of telling them, look, we wanna spend $4 million, so see how close you can get to that.
Yeah, I texted you a while back, I think this, I've always thought it's definitely doable.
Yeah,
Even if you go to, I shouldn't say the extreme, but some of the, you know, the restoration process, a period, even if you go to some extremes into that, I think the 500,000, almost 600 is definitely doable. I really do.
I hope so. Well, it is right now.
Yeah, I know.
Chris, what would be the most period of 1830 and 40? Would like a lap 6-inch siding be?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, lap 6-inch, okay.
Textured to look like
Yeah,
wood, maybe.
yeah.
Anything else?
Vinyl side.
Any other questions? Yeah, vinyl, that's right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
melt,
they
We're gonna
had
really save
that.
on the budget now.
They had that back in the 1800s.
there's a lot of metal around it, so it reflects, it hits the sun, it warps it and melts it, you know. Any other questions or comments, or we feel like we're a good shot? Jim, Mike, you guys feel good?
We haven't gone back into session yet, so is there any questions from, I mean, we've done a lot of talking with y'all, so,
There's only one order of business once we go in session, and that's to adjourn, so.
right, so.
Is there anything, because it obviously doesn't sound like it's gonna be, or it sounds like it's gonna be a couple of months before we put the shovel in the ground. Is there anything that I could be doing that we need to approve demo-wise on the front end, so once we get ready to go?
Well, we'd have to I mean, we gotta.
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I
not
just
right
see some
now.
opportunities to go out there and do some things, but
Sure, no, this is government at work now, and this is, we gotta do this.
Well,
You can go bush hog if you want to.
What did,
I
what
can
did
do
you,
that.
what did you say you'd invoiced so far?
the inspection,
Yeah, I mean, we had four,
oh,
we had four.
4,200?
Yes. So what are we at? Because we have
We're at
5,000.
20, whatever 26 and 1,500 is, that's where we're at.
So is there room to do some more? You can
Yeah.
do some more
A little bit, I
exploratory
think.
work on some of the bricks?
So we originally allocated.
Oh, you mean money-wise, Tim?
Yeah.
We've only got $400, as far as I know, left, because we had, from the initial assessment, because I had 1,200 for Derryberry. Obviously, David and I have done a lot of that, so I think we've got 400 left from the initial assessment, from the draws per se, left.
Did you get all your answers?
Are you talking about that first draw of the 2,500?
Yeah.
Well, the first was 2015, right?
Yes.
And the second was 2,500.
Right.
Which is 4515, and what have you invoiced for?
42 something?
Okay, so yeah, there's. only like
$300. Do you have all
$300.
your questions answered on the brick tie-in and stuff like that? Is there any
Yes.
more exploratory work you could do there to
I
get
feel
better
confident that
answers?
that the brick is not tied into the house.
So we just throw
Now,
just a
on-
hook over and.
So if a big bad wolf comes and blows that brick down, you can come out of
Now the logs will protect the brick.
Yeah, I think right now it's just getting to this spot of just like, what's the plan, and moving through this approval process now, because it's, the purpose of the exploratory is, we gotta get this moving, this bigger point, I like.
So there's nothing that I need to do, or David and I need to do?
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
just, now we've got what we need to do this. This is the original objective, is to get here, to then get here and here to figure out what exactly is happening, you know, with these two documents, and just refining it and then getting it in front of our finance and legal and going through TCA code and figure out what's required, what's not, so that we can get it in front of some committees and more of a buttoned up package.
Yeah.
With some photos, like, Jim, thanks for this, but you know, this is great, this packet that you sent. Can you email this to me, or?
I'll actually have to go back and find them. I just actually printed it, I didn't retain them. or
Oh,
anything.
okay, well, I'm gonna keep this then, for now.
But I'll do some research on replacement logs to see, you know, like Honest Abe log homes.
And I'll talk to
Can you
Don
even
next.
go can y'all even do a 16 to an 18-inch log? What do y'all, I'll do some research on stuff like that.
I wonder if, like, are there local people who do this kind of stuff for a hobby and fun? Like, I know, I'm talking about, like, you know, taking, well, one of my former constituents, Chrissy's constituent now, is a mechanical engineer and created his own basically like not lumber mill in his backyard, but he did, like, he's taking huge trees and milling them down, like,
Yeah.
so there's people who can make logs. I'm just,
Well, and
or in Sumner County.
Yeah.
We have several mills around Sumner County and even like in Gordonsville and stuff. And my next door neighbor would know all those places to go.
Well, there's one right down the road in Cottontown.
Is there?
Sure is. I drove by it the other day.
Talking about the old lumber mill in Caps Gap, or is that's fun down there?
In, where?
Caps Gap, the old, there used to be a lumber mill in Caps. I used to get fired with my dad when I was a kid in Caps Gap.
Yeah, we did too, yeah. Your dad.
Well, I know when I left, the last time I was out there, I wanted to see if that log, or the mill was there, and it's anyways. When you go to the red light out off of Liberty Creek, or take a left, like you're going toward Cottontown.
Okay.
And just prior to the
Okay,
post
so-
office, take a left, and there's a sawmill back in there.
There's a sawmill in Westmoreland too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's sawmills there.
Well, and the other
You'd be
thing-
surprised in this day and time, these small sawmills, they're just everywhere.
Chris was telling me yesterday that he made a post on Facebook about how blessed he was to be working on his house. He's already been contacted by people who have log cabins that they want to give him. The problem is the wood isn't big enough
Yeah.
for what we need.
Yeah.
And that's something else.
Yeah, so Granny's
Sad.
old log cabin is out here and it's just melting
Yeah,
into
falling
the
apart,
earth.
come get it, so I've actually been to look at a couple of them, in preparation. But like David said, they're so weathered and just
Yeah, it's too much.
It's sad to
Eating
know
up-
we had trees that big.
eating up the termites.
What kind of wood, you know what kind of wood those logs are?
I'm gonna take a sample and send it to a lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Tommy, last week, he was saying some of those in that picture looked like they were chestnut.
Well,
Yeah.
and one of the contractors, the developers that I know, said he knows of the house, and he says, I wouldn't be surprised if it was chestnut, and I've got a cabin of chestnut that you need to come look at.
Okay, so you think it's chestnut?
Yeah.
What?
Well, they would have been around that, during that time period, they would
Yeah,
still
that
been
was
growing
before the blight.
before the blight. Darn.
But
I didn't
it
think
could-
chestnuts got that big.
Oh, they were huge.
Huge.
They
But
got,
it
they,
could be random, random.
Yeah,
but
Right,
random.
that's the other thing, is it could be several different kinds of trees.
yeah, they cut down whatever they could find.
They
Right,
did.
right, so it
But
could,
chestnut and poplar was,
That was common.
That was
at
common,
big
time.
time.
The chestnut tree was, some of them were as big, up in the Appalachian Mountains were, some of them were, they were called the redwoods of the
Yeah.
east.
really.
Oh, yeah, they were huge.
I know tulip poplars have resistance to insects and
They
stuff,
do.
and so that was a preferred
Do you have
material.
any contacts with Amish? It's like
There's
that
a
old fashioned
big
sawmills and
sawmill
possibly.
in
could-
Scottsville.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them up
It's
around
about getting
Scottsville
it-
there, Allen County.
It's about getting them the wood big enough to cut.
I don't think you're gonna find them on the computer
Send them
though.
an email.
I don't think, oh, yes, send, yeah. I don't think you're gonna find them there, Tim. You keep looking, but I don't think you're gonna find them. Really?
That's where I got the idea, but
The Chamber of Commerce probably is putting it out there for them.
one of their American cousins is posted on.
All right, anything else?
Chris, what do you think is the longest log we would need? Because I told you, Don, my next door
30
neighbor.
footer easily.
Really, we would,
You've got some solid 30 footers, below the windows, above the windows.
That is a big.
That's
There's
so
some
good.
massive
That's
logs in
massive.
it's
that
a
house.
serious mill
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's a big log.
Did you want to say something? Did you want to say something? Yeah,
I was
somebody-
just gonna ask about the Amish.
Oh, about the
sawmills.
Amish, okay. Okay, well, I think I got my working orders.
All right, any other questions? Well, bring us back into order. You got one more motion?
Motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Second, all fair side?
Aye.
All right.
Well, I hate that I'm not gonna be able to go back out to the house to do some stuff.
I'm telling you, you could do some bush hogging.
Yeah.
Well,
My